Thank you, Megan. Really appreciate it. And thank you for affording us the opportunity on this very important subject. Today, I think we're all very fortunate to have a tremendous panel together that can speak to all the issues, well, not all the issues, but all the issues we're going to talk to in a very informed way. Let me begin by introducing the panel that we've got. This morning or this afternoon, whichever section we get into, Robert Costello. Bob Costello, a peer that I worked with in the past when he was in New York City. Great to be with you again, Bob. And he is the Executive Director for Enterprise Networks and Technology Support for U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Joining us also is Sunil Madhugiri, Acting Chief Technology Officer for U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Sunil, good to have you here with us. And also with us is Mahtab and Emdadi, Regional Sales Director for Dell in the federal sector. Welcome all, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation we're going to have. Let me begin by saying that artificial intelligence is something that we all started hearing about early on and probably in our careers, reading about it, listening to people talk about it, seeing it in the movies and things of that nature. It has advanced quite a bit to the point that it is making a difference in our world already. But having said that, I believe it is still in its infancy. I think we are just basically starting to tap into the capabilities of AI and where it is going to take us as a country. Having said that, one of the biggest collectors of data, information, and having systems in place to do this is, in fact, DHS and CBP especially. The amount of data that is collected, the amount of information that is there to basically take advantage is tremendous. I am absolutely looking forward to hearing this panel and hearing about where we're moving forward in the area of artificial intelligence and edge computing. So let's get right into this. Bob, I'll start with you if you don't mind. As I said earlier, I think artificial intelligence is in its infancy. But even if in its infancy, I believe that one of the most high-profile areas of AI is in the facial recognition arena. It is the application that we're probably seeing most prominent out there. Where do you see facial recognition going in the next 5 to 10 years, and what does that mean to the operators in the field?
Sure. Thanks, Chief Aguilar. Really a pleasure to be here, and I'm very, I always say the best career I've ever had is working at CBP, and right now I'm actually acting in a different role in the Border Enforcement and Management Systems Directorate in OIT, where I work directly with Border Patrol and Air and Marine and others on designing systems to support the operators. And I think where I see facial recognition going, we'll continue to see the improvements in reliability of it, getting that match. I think we'll start also seeing a lot more gallery size and the ability to match across, different holdings, whether it's ours, the FBI's, and starting to merge those holdings together. I think the other thing that I really see is you'll start seeing that comfort level of people, the human factor, because human's a big part of technology. I think we'll really start seeing that comfort factor increasing with the public on facial recognition. And I think we get there by being, what CBP is. We're here to safeguard the nation. We're here to facilitate lawful trade and travel, and all our other various missions. The great mission of the U.S. Border Patrol. And I think as they start seeing that we're good guardians of this data, that they can trust us with it, that we're catching, people that want to harm our country or harm other people, because that's a huge factor. And I think you're going to start seeing the success stories of facial recognition improving. I think we'll start seeing a lot too of lowering of the cost of facial recognition. As it spreads out, the reliability and the technology folks, the cameras right now, I'm on a pretty decent camera right now that we can do some matching with. But I think you're going to start seeing some of the other incorporations of technology, like, we've seen Apple on some of their devices. They have a very sophisticated facial recognition that they use different, LiDAR and a few others on the iPads to kind of map that it's the right person. So I really see that you're going to start seeing a vast improvement in the match rate, that you get close to 100%. I think you're going to see across the world more of an acceptance of this technology. And I think we get there by, proving that the privacy and other elements are taken care of, that it's reliable. And I think the other thing that I'm really excited to see is I think it's going to start speeding things up quite a bit. I think you're going to see in short order, you just walk through the airport, you're a highly compliant vetted traveler, global entry or some of the other programs. I think you'll be able to walk right through and kind of go on your way. And I think that's going to be really a benefit to the public as we, endure as a nation in this current pandemic as well. We do want to continue, right now to have the distance between people as we do things. So I think that you'll also see, these technologies being applied in other areas, building access and those functions as well as we kind of hopefully migrate off, the PIV card and maybe move off to other technologies.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Sunil, as Chief Technology Officer, a lot of the things that Bob just covered, we know comes with costs, comes with infrastructure, comes with, and this is really my question here, the distributed data and unstructured data that exists out there, and exists out there for the right reason. You take DHS and CBP into account, how we were all brought together after 9/11. Disparate systems, different ways of gathering, of storing these things. That is a major challenge as I understand it. What is your take on how we manage that going forward? And I would only add this because, Bob, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we covered is in the area of trade, supply chain, which is becoming more and more important in today's world, given the situations that we're facing. Sunil?
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Chief Aguilar. It's great to hear your voice again.
Good to see you.
I'm the acting CTO at CBP, working very closely with Bob Costello. We are good partners, a lot of collaborating, a lot of cool things. So from data perspective, as you know, right, data, let me give you a quick stat. I think you will be pretty staggering to the folks who are listening, is that data has pretty much, I would say, I think about 64x or something like that last 10 years. So we have created more data just from these kind of devices we talked about, and also unstructured data especially. So the growth is so massive, the data management becomes a very, very important piece of this. So what we are doing is, especially within CBP, we are trying to manage it we're trying to manage it in a different way. So what we are doing is we are trying to structure data depending on what kind of classification we talked about. You mentioned unstructured data, right? So think about even 15 years ago, unstructured data was not really that big of a big deal, but now it is. So based on that, we are classifying data as required, and also we are trying to figure out what kind of architecture, the backend storage it needs to go into. We're calling what is called information lifecycle management, ILM, which is, it used to be like a bad word before, but now it's a common word within the industry, because especially with the customers, they're realizing that with the data growth, they need to make sure that they classify data and put it in the right slots. I'll give an example, right? So what is happening, especially with the storage costs going down dramatically, we are also actually moving away from some of the traditional RDBMSs of the world, and going into more like an object store where it's like pennies to a dollar you're paying, right? So those are some of the things we are seeing are very, very important, and you can see that from CBP perspective, we are making actually a lot of inroads in there, especially for data management. We're also working very closely with other components within DHS. You mentioned supply chain, right? So one thing we are also looking at very seriously is our blockchain technology, right? Blockchain technologies has certain inherent qualities, especially for data, especially as far as data is concerned. And from the trade perspective, we do have teams currently working on some of the blockchain technologies. And these technologies are proving very, very worthwhile for us because, as you can imagine, let's say you buy guacamole from Chile. So one of the vendors who talk to us, they call it instead of calling blockchain, they're calling guac chain, for example. So we are trying to figure that out, how that works. Of course, blockchain is new from supply chain is concerned. It's mostly, as you know, used in the financial industry, but we are looking at that very, very seriously. And as also XT Costello mentioned, we are also doing other important things, just sharing data correctly, securely with other components within DHS. It's kind of important to do that. So from our perspective, we are trying to do two things: keep it secure, make it scalable, and also make sure it's extremely inexpensive. Especially data storage right now is very, very, very inexpensive. So from that perspective, I think we are doing all those components which you just mentioned.
Very good. Thank you, Sunil. Mahtab, every time I get the opportunity to do a panel like this or speak at a symposium or a conference, I always insert that, and when I say we, I mean we, CBP, DHS, are always looking to the industry, to the trade, to help us in any way that you can. So having heard these two experts here just a second ago that are actually in the field doing the work that needs to be done, and I'm going to take a little bit of a risk and say in today's world where they operate, unstructured data and distributed data is the rule rather than the exception. That's what we confront. What can you tell us about what industry, what Dell is doing to support them in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for the support that you guys provide to all of us and for your service. Sorry for the IT issues in the beginning. I'm shifting a little bit on a whim to my phone, so bear with me here. But I think I completely agree with Sunil in terms of the unstructured data storage challenges. Really, the innovation that have come in the storage industry around object storage, scale-out NAS platforms that have really combated that and brought lower costs to the industry have made that much easier to grapple with. For example, at Dell Technologies, we have a platform called Isilon that is literally made for handling hundreds of petabytes of data with just a few people. And again, in the traditional storage industry, that just wasn't something that was achievable. So, I feel like we've gone to a better place with just the volume of data and how to store it. Now, the distributed data problem, that's not even a problem. It's just a reality that we all deal with, especially for missions like CBP, where a lot of the mission is happening, at these edge locations like the southern border. I think, one thing that industry has done is we partnered with companies like the Equinixes of the world that have a network of highly connected sites, that span, these micro sites that are at the edge, and also, connect to a more macro site, an essential location. And really what we've done is we put our AI ready stacks that we've, jointly created with Intel at the local sites, at these local micro sites, at these Equinix facilities. And we allow them to kind of do local data ingest and analytics. And whenever, there is an incident that needs further, analysis or just archival, these microsites connect to a larger central repository at a macro site where we kind of place our data warehouse solutions, coupled with that Isilon platform that's really made, again, to handle volume and just a lot of ingested data. So, these AI ready stacks connect to our data warehouse platforms. And then also, the Equinix partnerships, they have these integrations with all the public clouds of the world. So if, an organization wants to tier any of that data out to take advantage of a very unique, innovative capability that a public cloud has, all of those links and integrations are there today. So they can kind of tier it out to, say, a Google or, an Amazon, take advantage of their services and also, still maintain control of that data and bring the insights back to their agencies. So, yeah, I think that it's a reality and, we've been able to, solve for it through just our ecosystem of partnerships.
Very good. Thank you, Mahtab. You touched on something, Mahtab. You talked about edge computing. Now, I warn you, and Robert knows this, and the audience, that I'm an operator. I'm an end user. That's where I grew up in the agency. But as that, I saw it as critically important as to what the IT, the networks and systems did for that operator. Those are the lifelines to that operator on the ground. Having said that, there's something you just mentioned, Madhugiri, is the issue of edge computing, to where an individual carrying one of these has the benefit of non-latency going back to a command center, a centralized location, so that we get to the point of basically integration, correlation, aggregation, evaluation, assessment, leading to immediate action on the part of that operator. Where do you see us going on that? And when I say us, the end user, what's in the immediate future, the next 3 to 5 years from the industry perspective?
Yeah, I think that, we at Dell have adopted, the concept of edge core cloud, and really making sure that you have harmony across all of those and you have all those elements represented in your ecosystem is where our focus is. So again, going to the tactical edge, we have, really created these compact platforms that will be able to bring like that horsepower to the operators, in these local sites in order for them to do the data ingest. But also, we provide, that highly connected, connection between these edge sites and these central data warehouses, so they can get that data just in time, back and forth to be able to, again, go through like the peaks and highs of the data utilization that they needed to do their algorithms. So, I think that edge core cloud is a concept that, we're going to have to make sure is adopted, because all of the work is happening at the edge, and you really do need IT represented there, especially if you need those insights immediate. And for the further analysis and just the archival of all of that data generated, and really not all of it has to go to the core. You can selectively choose what to put into the core. You really need that centralized data warehouse. So yeah, it's absolutely something that, we have focused on, and we've made tactical solutions that can really survive even the most, rough edge locations, that we see in the DoD space. So absolutely.
Very good. Thank you. Bob, edge core cloud. Cloud absolutely going to be a part of what our world is henceforth. But every time I hear cloud, there's the concern, whether it's real or not, about security,
Sure,
privacy, PII, all of those things that especially DHS is and should be so sensitized to. What can you tell us about that as we incorporate what we're talking about into the cloud?
sure, absolutely. So I think on any type of IT system, security is a multi-layered, process. And whether you're using public or private cloud or on-prem, your security is only as good as your people that can work together to enact that security umbrella. So I think here at CBP, we're very privileged, and I always go back to, this is just the most amazing place to work at CBP. So we have really strong partnerships within our IT organization. So myself and the CISO, we talk almost daily, if not multiple times a day, and that's across OIT here, because you mentioned something else, sir. We're here for the operators. We need to make sure that these systems are available 100% of the time. We need to make sure that there's trust in the authenticity of the data that we provide. And we need to always keep in mind that if our systems go down, it's a national security issue. And we do that each and every day. And as we move to things like zero trust, which is, many different things kind of gathered together, it's not just flip a switch and you're on zero trust. But I think it's having these strong partnerships with industry, with other government agencies, and then internally to make sure that you're auditing yourself, you're testing yourself, you're continuously evaluating your technology stack. We're making a lot of changes here. at CBP, and we're really fortunate to have continued support from the top of the agency down to modernize our IT systems. And we're continuously working on, moving to a zero trust, moving to different ways to do identification of the user and then entitle that user for the accesses that they need. Because it is all about the operator, whether you work in the Office of Trade, Border Patrol, Air Marine, or elsewhere. They rely on us to make sure that the data is available and that the systems are secure and running well. Because we really want, as we move, we were talking about edge computing a little bit there and some other things. We really want on the belt, you pull out your phone, you identify a piece of cargo in front of you or a person, and you get immediate results that help you make an informed decision as a law enforcement officer, or someone in regulatory audit that's at a facility working with our trade partners, maybe doing an audit. We want to make sure that they have access to all the information that they would in the office, and that they can do it securely over many different types of networks or connection models. So I think that security is difficult on-premise or in the cloud. I think it's also something that you need to have really strong relationships with industry to make sure that you understand what they're seeing. And then also, we're very fortunate at DHS to have good partnerships with CISA and elsewhere, so that we're learning as they're seeing things, it's communicated out. But I think the hallmark of effective security is strong partnerships within your IT organization, and really strong partnerships with your security organization. Because while security is everyone's responsibility, I think one of the reasons that we're so successful here at CBP on our security front is because of these strong partnerships that were formed. We're always learning from each other, and there's never an accusatory nature here at CBP when there's a security incident. We work together and we solve it, and we move forward, and we get better each and every day.
Very good. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Sunil, I'm going to leave you with a question, but I want to get back to Mahtab real quick on the issue of the cloud. But Sunil, before I go to Mahtab, very quickly, the issue of the challenges associated with operationalizing AI across entities, agencies, departments, and hopefully internationally. That there is a real challenge there. I'd like to hear from you in just a second what your thoughts are on those. But before that, let me get back to Mahtab, because Mahtab, I want you to give any kind of input that you think is relevant to the issue of the cloud and issues that some of the challenges that go with it from the industry perspective.
My advice around cloud, and specifically public cloud, is really take advantage of their innovation and not so much just the technology. In the world of AI, there's a lot of innovation happening in the public cloud space that I really do encourage our customers to take advantage of. And I think the trick is to make sure that you're really maintaining control of your data, and you have your own data warehouse and private cloud, but you really have the ability to kind of tier to the different cloud providers that have these unique AI services. And once you've taken advantage of those services and done the analysis, you can really bring that information, back to your agency. The landmine that I always caution against is storing huge volumes of data in the public cloud, and purely using them for IaaS, because, again, with AI, just the volume of data and keeping that out there for long periods of time, the cost really becomes untenable. So, instead, I say tier the data that you want there, take advantage of their innovation, and bring that insight back in-house for your agency to take advantage of. So the trick is multi-cloud. The trick is to take advantage of their innovation, but also maintain your own private data warehouse in your own control.
Okay. So my words, not yours, but I think what I heard is literally stratification of data, controlled, maintained, secured, and then going back to your comment, Bob, is in a zero trust network capability. That's what I think I just heard there, which makes all the sense in the world. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mahtab. Sunil, back to you on this operationalizing AI across agencies, departments, entities, and hopefully, again, internationally, which is going to be critically important in the world that we come from.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Chief, for the question. So what we are seeing is, especially CBP side, the vendors we are dealing with these days, the expectation is pretty much product that they talk about, has some kind of a AI machine learning component to that. But from our perspective, from CBP perspective, for operation perspective, of course we follow our norms for the operations, how we put stuff in production and how do we give that to the operators. As XT Costello said, that's the biggest thing. What we do is make sure that these devices, what we are doing, these AI machine learning component we are building, get to the operator. That is the most important thing for us. From operation perspective, we work with the operators very closely just to make sure that they get access to what they need, and also make it highly secure, scalable is very important, and availability is very, very important from that perspective. But AI machine to like some of the panel members spoke, right? I think we are starting out in a good way. There's a lot of challenges with respect to data learning, and including data modeling. What happens? How much data do you need to train your models, right? So we have seen about 20%. You need about 20%. Some people say it's more than 20% or 30%. I have seen people who have replicated all the data to do the machine learning. I mean, that's not the whole point. Otherwise, you're wasting storage, wasting space, and also wasting money, right? So we are trying to figure out what that good balance is. So we do have some data scientists and chief data scientists within CBP. I'm currently supporting folks within Office of Trade, and they're doing something similar. So what we are saying is get data, what we need to put in operations, test it out, and then build models based on that. See, also, Chief, what's happening is a lot of vendors these days are providing their own, I would say, algorithms and a pretty sophisticated way of doing things. So what we are doing is, rather than rebuilding and rehashing everything, we are taking some of those models and recreating some of these, I would say, algorithms, right? So that we can train the data, train the model. And we are seeing a lot of benefit of that, right? I mean, including our operation within our monitoring devices, for example, within CBP. How do we monitor that? And so we're trying to train the model so that we can figure out in future if that particular device can go bad, for example, right? If we can predict that. So predictive analytics is a big deal for us from operation perspective. We are working on that. It's as you know, CBP is data is number one for us. We are one of the largest consumers of data probably within the federal government, especially in civilian federal government. So for us to do that, it's a lot of effort, but I think we're making a good effort on that. I think you'll see more and more some of these things coming out, especially from CBP OIT operations perspective.
Very good. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here, but we've got time probably for one more question. But before I go to the question, let me say this. What I think I just heard, Sunil, is big data. Big data is critically important. Accessing, securing, and managing that data, and frankly, exploiting it, I think are the things that we're looking at here. And quite the challenge.
Yes, sir, that is exactly correct.
So, Mahtab, one of the things, and I know this is a big question, costs, infrastructure, productivity to get that infrastructure to CBP and DHS, industry. What can you tell us about what they're looking at in order to basically keep up with the demand that we know is going to not only come, but it's going to be accelerating in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that we think about it is we want to just impact that speed to mission value faster than anyone could do, on their own. And I think one of the ways that we do that is through our partnerships with Intel, with, AI companies like StrikeWorks, with VMS companies like Airship. We really have created this federation of partnerships at Dell. We're creating end-to-end solutions. We're not coming to market with just a storage device. We're integrating all of these things together and bringing them to a customer as a true platform. for use. So that, again, impacts that speed and drives down the entire cost of, an AI effort, because you take a lot of that integration work and that time, off the customer, and we take care of it for them. Another thing that we do for a ton of our customers is we are able to take their workloads and model them in our own AI labs. And therefore, we're able to size our AI-ready solutions specifically for their workloads. So, for the business side, that's immediate ROI. And again, for the operational side, that time that is previously spent on architecting can now be, spent on solving the challenge that they were originally buying the platform for. So again, it's just all about that speed to mission value. And we do it through, again, our labs and our partnerships, and all of this takes a lot of the work off the customer. That integration work comes to us, and it just drives the entire process to a smaller time frame.
Very good. Speed to mission, absolutely critical, and love to hear that. Bob, Sunil, Mahtab, unfortunately, we're out of time. We could have gone on for another hour and a half, I'm sure. Great information that you shared with the audience. I thank you all for supporting the men and women that are out there doing the job that is so critical to our nation. Thank you very much.